Welcome to the 2021 SSTS Contractor Information Meeting. This is certainly different than previous years, but this will hopefully provide you with the information you need as this construction season gets started. I hope you had a little time to relax after last year's busy season, and hopefully we have as productive of a 2021 season as we did in 2020, despite the challenges of the pandemic. There hasn't been much change in the SSTS program staff. Joe and I will hold the primary role within the SSTS program. Kathy Cole is back this year. She had quite a bit of time off, and we're very happy to have her back. Brad Hansel and Marcus Zbinden will continue to provide inspection support as needed. However, Brad is in the role of being the government center manager when Greg Bowe is busy at the House of Representatives, and Marcus also has his own program. So primarily you will be working with Joe and I. I continue in the role of senior environmentalist. I am responsible for program design review and approval, inspections, and operating permits. Joe is in the role of lead environmentalist. He administers our TMDL program, which is our direct discharge program for the SSTS program. He's also responsible for the septic system grant and low interest loan programs, as well as SSTS reporting and enforcement. All of our contact information is right there in front of you and is current, so if you have any questions or need anything, give us a call. As I mentioned, Kathy Cole, who is our SSTS administrative staff member, is back this year. She is the administrative staff member for the entire Environmental Services Department. She has several responsibilities within the entire department, as well as the work that she does under the SSTS program. Her responsibilities under the SSTS program include receiving permit applications, issuing permits, entry of maintenance records, compliance inspections, abandonment records. All of that information under the general form submittal should be submitted to ssts@co.carver.mn.us. That is the email address that is associated with the SSTS program. It is our method of tracking the information that comes in for the program, and it works in a way that we are able to be accountable for the work that comes in. Kathy, myself, and Joel all have access to that email address, so when information comes in, we can check it off and make sure that we have responded in a timely and efficient manner. So please use that email address always. If you need to call Kathy for anything, you can contact her at 952-361-1800. That is the general number for the Environmental Services Department. Kathy, if she does not answer it, usually it's because she's on the other line, and someone else within the department will answer, or else you can leave a message and Kathy will follow up and direct the call where it needs to go, or else respond to you. Kathy will be working from home as well as from the office this year. She is mic'd up from home, so she will be able to answer calls when she is at home. She also has a portal desktop to work through, and she sees everything at home as she sees it in the office. The only thing that she will not be able to do when she is at home is receive permit payments. However, Joe Enfield and I are trained in receiving payments for permits, so we will be able to process that for you if you need some last-minute assistance. We hope to get out a schedule for what Kathy's work in the office time is going to be to help Joe and I, so that we're not processing payments, because that can become quite time-consuming, especially if somebody is getting 3 permits at a time. So if you have any questions about that, you can give us a call, but that is the plan for handling permit payments this year. So we just talked about permit payments a little bit. In last construction season, things changed on everyone at the last minute, and we ended up navigating things as needed as we went along. Going into 2021, we're going to have to continue to communicate in order to get through things. There are no current plans to open the government center at least through March. So we'll have to keep an eye on where numbers are for the virus and what the administration decides to do. That is not something that we get to decide department by department. There's a full county plan on how they want to move into opening. So whether there's going to be a phased opening that will allow appointments, we don't know yet. That has not been announced to staff members yet. So as I said, communication will be the key in getting through everything. We'll continue to process payments by phone. We'll be using email as much as possible. We can meet you outside the government center if you need to drop something off. So you'll just have to communicate with us and let us know when you'll be stopping in, especially if it's the busy construction season, because somebody may not be there. So as I said, it may be open at some point during the construction season, but there are no plans for that yet. So a review of the SSTS permit process. Designs will be submitted to Carver County. We can receive them by mail or we can receive them through email. Once it is received, we will set it up in our system and we will begin review of the design by conducting a soils review and then going through the design. If everything is complete within the permit, including signatures on the application form and on the management plan, then the permit is ready for issuing. If it is incomplete, additional information will be requested. Once we receive that information, then the red line will be sent by email or United States Postal Service to the contractor who has been designated as the installer. If we do not have payment by check, perhaps it's been sent in with the design, then you will have to contact us after we let you know that the permit is ready to be issued and let us know when you want to pay for the permit by phone. If there have been any changes to your contact information since last season, please provide your preferred and updated contact information to Carver County, and also we would prefer if you are able to provide your client contact information so that if there are some changes that we need as part of, not necessarily changes, but something we needed on the design, we can contact them, perhaps signatures on management plans maybe, then we can send that to them and you're not chasing that down yourself. So the process for getting the permit to you, the installer, is that first and foremost the county has to receive permit payment. So if the payment for the permit is not sent in along with the design, then you will need to contact us and you will have to provide your credit card information and we can process that payment by phone. Once we receive the payment, we will print out the permit and we will send it to you by email, and then you can sign it and send it back, and then we will sign it and send it back along with the red line approved design, and we can either send that to you by email or we can send it through the United States Postal Service. So we'll just have to communicate and find out what works for everybody, but that is the process for permit payment. You can call, as I mentioned earlier, we hope to set up a schedule, but the 1800 number will be the main line for receiving payment. If you can't get somebody and you need something done quickly, then call Joe or myself and we will process it for you. So one thing that will be changing for 2021 is how Carver County administers the Type 3 monitoring program. Type 3 systems are systems that are installed on areas that have less than 12 inches of separation of the seasonal high water table. The soils have been disturbed, or they have been placed over an old system, or the drain field is undersized. So because of all of those issues, there is an assumption that these systems could fail. So the first 3 years of that system's life, they are required to be monitored for seepage around the drain field. Up until this point, Carver County has required property owners to enter into a monitoring and mitigation agreement with a licensed contractor to monitor those systems once per year for 3 years, and then to have them monitored regularly after that time during a scheduled maintenance routine. So Carver County is going to move away from that old system, and we are going to move into a program where Carver County staff members are doing that monitoring for the first 3 years. We have not at this point done a very good job, in my opinion, of following up on whether these systems are being monitored. We're not saying they haven't been, but we are not collecting information as we should be to make sure that there aren't issues with these systems. Right now we've been going on a no news is good news policy, and for what people pay for the permit, which is $500 versus $400, they don't have any information in the background from the county to say, yeah, everything worked out fine. So as I said, Carver County will hold the agreement with the property owner for the first 3 years. We have put together a monitoring agreement, and that is available on the website under the SSTS program under the Forms tab. That will be the form that designers will use when they are designing a Type 3 system. So you will fill out the form, and you will have the property owner sign it, and you will send it to Carver County, and Carver County will sign it, and we will send it to the property owner. So, and then that copy will also go out with the red line permit when the permit is issued. We will stay on the program where after that first 3 years, it will be monitored again during the regularly scheduled maintenance. Any Type 3s that have been monitored up until this point, if you hold an agreement with a property owner, you are still responsible for that monitoring. It's anything that is issued from this point forward that Carver County will be watching. So just a note on the number of Type 3 systems that we have in the county right now. From 2008, when the Type 3 systems began to be monitored through the changes in 70-80, there were 18 Type 3s in Carver County from 2008 through 2018. From 2019 to present day, because there is a new one for a design that's been submitted for 2021, there have been 18 more. So we saw a huge increase in the number of Type 3s, and in breaking down those numbers, it might be because we're seeing more minor subdivisions of farm properties where there is a lot of soil disturbance. We're also seeing a lot of property transfer of smaller lots, so we might be at a point where systems started going in with rural properties, rural lots being created, and those are getting to the end of their life. So lots were not created at that time to have a second system available for replacement, nor protect one of those systems. So that may be the case. We'll continue to see what the trend is for numbers, and we'll go from there. So if you have any questions on it, you can give us a call. So as I mentioned, Carver County has created a form for Type 3 monitoring. The form in front of you on your right-hand side is the monitoring agreement for a Type 3 subsurface sewage treatment system. This form should be submitted with all Type 3 designs. So you will fill it out and you will submit it along with the design to Carver County. You will fill out the name of the person that is being permitted, their email address, their mailing address, their phone number, the site address, and the PID. You will not have to worry about filling out the SSTS number or the permit number, because those numbers will not have been created at the time that you submit the design. Those are numbers that the county creates after you submit the design. The only thing that you cannot see on this form, because I could not fit it on this page, is the signature area below. So there will be an area for the property owner to sign. They will They will sign it when they sign all their other paperwork for the design. And then when the county approves the design, we will sign it and we will send a copy of this form to the property owner. We will also send a copy of the form along with the design that goes out to the installer. On the bottom of the left-hand side of this slide, you will see that the form can be found at this link on the Carver County website. So for your convenience, you can bookmark this to be used in the future. So moving on to operating permits and maintenance agreements. Operating permits are required for all Type 4 systems in Carver County. They are generated following the submittal of an operational plan by a service provider for a Type 4 system. They are closely associated with the Type 4 technology that is being used. Carver County will review the plan that is provided by the designer or service provider or both, and then we will create our final operating permit to be issued along with that design. We will communicate closely with the designer and the service provider on the creation of that operating permit so that there's a good understanding of what is required for monitoring during that first year, and then moving forward after that, and then in consecutive years following. So those things tend to change over time when we know that the system is operating as it was designed. The second part to this form is the maintenance agreement portion, and that is associated with holding tanks. A couple years ago, Carver County became more involved in creation of these maintenance agreements because we were not first aware of how many holding tanks were out there and whether they were being maintained as holding tanks. So this gave us additional oversight. So when a holding tank design is submitted to the county will review that design for approval, because holding tanks are not a guaranteed option, especially when we're seeing more rural businesses created. We want to know if there's a better option, which may be a permanent system rather than a holding tank. If the county accepts the holding tank design, then we will create the maintenance agreement to be sent to the property owner or the homeowner. The homeowner will sign it and obtain the maintainer's signature. We do not want someone to be just putting somebody else's name down as the maintainer. We want the individual who is going to be maintaining that tank to be the one that signs this form. The form will be submitted to the county for final approval, and then we will sign it and send it out with the design and to the property owner. So we will, on an annual basis, be reviewing these holding tank systems and to verify that they're being maintained as frequently as the design states they are required. Just a reminder that event counters are required on all pressurized systems. Over the past couple of years, there's been a really good response from everybody in making sure that an event counter is installed on pressurized systems. So thank you for your response on that. I appreciate it. If an event counter is not visible at the time of the inspection, we will open the electrical box and look for one. If we can't find it, we'll call you and remind you that one is required. There are installers and electricians that install them within the home, and that's fine with us. We don't have a problem with that. Just send us a picture or have the electrician send us a picture, and we will continue to withhold the COC until an event counter is installed if one is not located at the time of the final inspection. So just another reminder in regard to submitting soils for minor subdivisions. This picture wasn't taken this past year. We didn't even have snow on December 19th. Well, we did in October, but it went away. But it's just really hard to see soils at that time of the year. The days are short, the sun is low in the sky, the glare off the snow is tough to see anything. So it's important that you communicate with your clients the need to submit soils to Carver County as soon as possible. or submit them yourself so that we can get out there and get the soils reviewed prior to those year-end minor subdivisions. There was a huge improvement in 2020. We had favorable conditions in December, but I was not out on a lot of sites in December looking at soils. Most of them had been submitted prior to December, and at this point I think I'm holding up one house permit, unfortunately, for some soils that were not submitted on time. So that house permit's going to have to wait. So it's usually not the county that suffers when these don't get submitted. It's the property owner. So if it takes a little hand holding in getting that stuff sent in a timely manner so we can keep moving things along, that would be helpful. Thank you. So in understanding the minor subdivision process in Carver County, first and foremost, a survey of the proposed lot or parcel is required. So when you are out there doing your soil borings, make sure you understand where those lot lines are so that you are not going out again at a later date to do more borings, or they're not moving the lot lines later. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. In addition to the survey, we need certification of all existing septic systems by a licensed SSTS inspector. If the certification passes, then borings for an alternate SSTS location are required, and that includes 3 borings in the location of the alternate. If the certification fails, then we need to locate a primary and an alternate septic system location, and usually $20,000 in escrow is required, unless that primary septic system can be replaced prior to finaling that minor subdivision. Usually that doesn't happen, but in the event, so if that can happen, then we need the $20,000 in escrow. If you have been notified about whether there is a question on whether somebody needs to have borings completed on a tract of land that is being subdivided, the code requires that anything that is 19.99 acres or less need to locate a primary and an alternate septic system location. 20 acres and more doesn't necessarily have to have it done, but that is the decision that needs to be made by Carver County Environmental Services. We have had lots created at the 20 acres and more and not had the opportunity to sign off on those lot splits, only to get out to the site and find that the lot is, unfortunately in one case I would bet it was 90% wetland. So finding a primary septic system location and an alternate on a site like that, plus placing a house on it, is pretty difficult. And we've had one most recently where we were out on the site and we had an extremely hard time finding at least 12 inches of good soil. So make sure that you communicate with us in regard to whether there is a question on whether they need to identify a primary and an alternate septic system location. We've gotten more involved in this process through land management on some of these lot splits to try to avoid that instance. But if there's ever a question, please give us a call and we can review the parcel and have a conversation with the property owner if needed. After the soils have been submitted for the minor subdivision, Carver County will review those soils and then we will approve them as part of the minor subdivision. So just a quick overview of SSTS review requirements, whether it be for a minor subdivision or for a replacement septic system. We require that the soil borings are legibly identified with flags or stakes. We require that the upslope side of the rock bed corners, or the center of each trench is identified and staked for review. Soil and site conditions need to be favorable for review, unlike what you can see in the picture above. And just a reminder that submitting soil and design information promptly or scheduling a common site visit will improve efficiency. I'm always willing to try to fit something in with somebody on a site that you are either uncertain of or just for the sake of efficiency, you want to meet at the site, I am always willing to do that if I have time. So it seems like we've been talking about these 70-80 rule changes for a long time, and perhaps we have. They have finally been adopted as of January 4th and are effective as of January 11th. And they pertain to compliance inspections, specifically pump it to pass it, and rules under the SDS permitting requirements. So in front of you, you can see the parts of 7081 you can reference if you want to read into this more. The rule modifications can be broken down into SDS permitting, flow equalization requirements, and existing system tank inspections. I'm not going to even get into the SDS permit requirements and flow equalization because I don't completely understand them all myself yet. And so if they pertain to you, I'm sure you're going to be doing your own research if you haven't already. I will definitely be doing my own research for any future sites. I don't think we have anything that is affected by this at this point. In fact, I don't think we do. So under existing system tank inspections, though, I'm going to move on to the next slide so that we can walk through what paperwork is required when you are having somebody else pump a tank for you and certifying it, or whether you pumped it prior and you're going to use that maintenance information as part of a compliance inspection. On the slide in front of you is a sewage tank integrity assessment form. This form is required for all SSTS compliance inspections when the tank has been maintained and certified by an SSTS professional other than the SSTS inspector submitting the SSTS compliance form. This form may be filled out by an individual who has done maintenance on a tank, and as a courtesy they provide it to the property owner and send it into the county so that at a later date the drain field can be certified. This may be the case when it's frozen soils, and so you pump it, you know, say you're pumping it next month in March or whatever, when the ground is still frozen and they can't check the drain field. If this form is on file, this will serve as the documentation that those tanks are good. Just a basic maintenance record does not qualify as the assessment form. We've had some compliance inspections come in recently where it says on the compliance inspection form the tank was maintained at a previous date by such and such maintainer, but the form that the maintainer submitted states right on the form, this is not a compliance inspection. So even if in their mind they say, yeah, it was okay, if you submit that form along with your compliance inspection, you are ultimately responsible for saying that tank was okay. So if you're okay with that, then great. If you want to protect yourself, then you should have the maintainer fill out this form and sign off that they are the ones that are approving those tanks. On the left hand side on the bottom there is a link to this form for the MPC website. We placed it on the county website. You can bookmark this link on your computer for future use. So in deciding whether or not a tank should be reused in a non-conforming location, first and foremost, assess the location according to 7080.2000. Is it under a deck, staircase, or other placement issues? If it doesn't meet setback issues, put yourself in the maintainer's shoes. Is this something that is just going to be a continuous headache for somebody in the future? Is there another place to put it? If you want to certify that tank because there's just no other option for them out there and the tank is in really good shape yet, you can certify the tank for reuse by pumping and inspecting it and signing off on it and making a note of the location issue. If in the future there is a permit that is applied for reuse of that tank, the property owners will be required by Carver County to obtain a variance if there is a setback issue. So these are things that should be discussed with the property owner at the time of maintenance if you are certifying that tank for reuse. On to the subject of iron filters. In front of you on your slide, you will see a link on the bottom of the slide that will direct you to a fact sheet that was put out by the MPCA that discusses water conditioner waste. And it discusses wastes that are acceptable to discharge into your SSTS, and it discusses wastes that are not acceptable to discharge into your SSTS. And one of those wastes that is not acceptable is iron filter waste. It can be discharged to an SSTS, but it is not recommended because it will fail the system over time. So I know most designers will not guarantee a system that has iron filter waste going into it. I know most installers will not guarantee a system that has iron filter waste discharged to it. Carver County will not issue a permit without stating that the iron filter waste must be disconnected from entering that system. It is recommended that there should be some changes that allow that to be discharged to the ground surface or a separate trench. We had a situation last year where somebody just did not want to have to get rid of their iron filter. So the best that they would do is unhook the hoses. We took a picture of it. They probably hooked them right back up, but they were made aware of the situation that they are ultimately responsible if that system fails. So if you're having a conversation with a property owner and they are just really adamant about keeping their iron filter, this link will provide you with some information to provide to them to help them understand the risk they are taking if they place iron filter water into their system. And it can be shared also with other clientele. If you're a maintainer and you're seeing issues with a system, or if you're being called out on a site that's experiencing some issues, you can reference this information to homeowners. If you have somebody that you would like the county to talk to, we certainly will answer questions for them, and hopefully we can convince them that it is in their best interest to direct that water away from the septic system. So in proofing your work, it's understood we all make mistakes. I don't expect to have a season where we don't have paperwork mistakes. I make paperwork mistakes. The issue is in when we have repeated mistakes, and most often we see mistakes on design sheets that are used as templates. The easiest way I can think to resolve those issues is for you to proofread your design sheets before you submit them to the county. The biggest issue is usually within tank sizing, so just double check that you have the right size tanks on your design. The other part is lack of signatures, and I know most of you have a process that you go through with your clients in them providing signatures and then having the design sent to the county. It doesn't always get taken care of, and I know that you know that. So we can get the signature if we have contact information. If we don't have contact information, then we end up getting a hold of you. So on one side or another, somebody's going to usually end up contacting somebody again. So do your best in trying to get those signatures to us when the design is submitted. The other part is in not reading the permit conditions or changing permit conditions as you're installing. If you're going to make changes to the design while installing, please let the county know so that there are no surprises when we get out onto the job site. Okay, the Carver County TMDL program. The TMDL program began in 2008. Last year we gave a presentation as part of the contractor meeting that we were getting close to the end of the first phase of the TMDL program. So the majority of the systems in that first phase have been addressed, and the current plans are to move it into the Crow River watershed. Due to the pandemic, I understand that there has been a delay in selecting the next priority watershed. When that information is available, we will get that information out to contractors who would like a list of individuals that have been identified in this next phase of the TMDL program. The program details will remain the same. A record of a drain field is required for systems that Carver County does not have records of their septic system. If they believe they have a drain field, they have the opportunity to provide an as-built to Carver County, just as they did in the first phase. Grant funds are available to be used for the replacement of a direct discharge septic system through the TMDL program, and the loan program is available on a scheduled 10-year payback for TMDL systems. Joe Enfield is in charge of this program, so if you have further questions for him, you can reach him at 952-361-1801. So that wraps up everything I wanted to discuss during this year's contractor meeting, along with a few outtakes of my own while I was recording it. It's going to take you a lot less time to watch this than it took me to record it, and that's a fact. So, but this worked out just fine, I guess. So if you have any questions, though, about anything I discussed, please give me or Joe a call. Or if there's something that we did not discuss that you have questions on, also give us a call. We will see you when the season starts.